Welcome to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 256 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to see you. We're going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today, going to be reviewing some code. I'm really happy to have you here. It's July 28th, 2021. Let's get into it. Let's do this. If this is your first time seeing the stream, welcome. So happy to have you. And if you're a returning visitor, welcome back. I forgot. I wanted to answer some questions from previous episode forums. So there were some questions that I just taking a note to myself. And that is a perfect segue into mentioning that this agenda that we're looking at is available to you. So if you were watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the details section to the left of this video. And if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description. And if you're watching this on Twitch, the link in the Twitch chat is, let's see here, right here. I'm going to put this in the Twitch chat right now. And the agenda is handy if you want to follow along, click on links for the things that I'm working on. And as I change it, it will slowly synchronize with the server. So eventually it should say more cleanup bugs over here, I think, if I've done my job right. There, yeah. So what are we working on today? Well, before I start, I want to remind you, no plan survives breakfast. In fact, normally I start the stream by saying that, and I did it out of order today, and that's okay, because, again, no plan survives breakfast. I don't have a really sort of strict script on how things are going to go today. Things might go completely off the rails. I might start reviewing one patch and get completely sidelined, or something else will show up on the internet that I have to take care of, and that's okay. What we're trying to do is capture software development, the kind of software development I do, in the raw, and that means watching me struggle, watching me deal with interruptions or going down blind alleys or rabbit holes. So if that's your cup of tea, then welcome to the tea party. Not the political party or the band, but it's a good Canadian band, the Tea Party. They're very good. Let's see here. What are we talking about? Yeah, I want to review some code today. So I've got some patches in my queue to review. They are related to clearing up some sort of polish issues in the clear recent history dialogue, which, if you recall, is something that we were working on, I believe, in the last episode and the episode before that. We were porting that dialogue from being sort of a standalone window, a standalone old school dialogue, to being a more modern, what we call the Proton style of dialogues, to sort of more match the retheme that went out in Firefox 89. And in doing that, there were some issues with the with the work we did. Now, like, we did good work, but there are some polished things. Like, that's what happens whenever, you do this sort of like conversion from one thing to another. Sometimes that conversion, even though you get like 95% of it the way there, that last 5% is like little polish issues, little fit and finish issues, and they're worth looking at. So in this particular case, this bug was filed because there was like a weird lack of gap, like a sort of an unexpected small gap between these checkboxes and the buttons. And Heist took this patch on. This is my colleague Heist, and he writes, I'm not really sure where the expected case came from. I think the Proton spec is probably a bit more space than in the expected one, but I think the horizontal spacing also looks wrong on Windows, more wrong than the Mac screenshot. So I'm fixing a bunch of it. So what we might need is my Windows machine, my Windows VM to start up. So I'm going to start that up in the background while we're looking at this patch. Okay, so let's take a look at the patch that Heist submitted for review. Improve spacing in the window modal clear recent history dialog. And for the people who aren't familiar, maybe you weren't watching this last time, this dialog is the one that if you go into the history menu here and you choose clear recent history, it's this one right here. And we want to improve the spacing. So let's start. Hang on, I'm just telling telling my VM to update so that we have the most up-to-date version of the tree, because I think it's been a couple of days. Yeah, it's been like half a month. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna update that while we review this patch. I don't want to distract you with it. Well, maybe you do want to watch me do it. Maybe that's okay. So what's happening here is I'm updating to Central, and I'm gonna pull my latest changes from Central. Whoops, conflicting changes. Now this is actually this is an interesting thing. I actually don't, I believe, have any conflicting changes. If I do hgdiff, I believe there aren't any conflict. Oh, there is. Never mind. I thought I was about to show you an interesting issue that recently hit our Mercurial using folk, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe if this works, then I won't show you that problem. Although maybe I will end up showing it to you on the host machine. So yeah, that works properly. Now I'm going to pull from Central. So what this command means is pull the recent commits on Central, and then that -u means update to the very top. Like it's going to do two things in one. Pull that stuff and then take me to the very top. And then I'm going to have this build in the background while we look at the patch. Scooby-Doo. So that's adding file changes. Yeah, there's a lot. It was about, when was the last time I updated this tree? It was about July 14th. So this is about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So I hadn't used this VM in a while. Plus, I think it was away for a little bit. Okay, so we're going to pull that stuff down. We're going to kick off a build, and while that's building, we can then take a look at what this patch is doing. What I like to do, especially with patches like these where it's not, you know, CSS, I love the CSS language. Like it's so powerful. There are certain things that are non-obvious about it. And so especially for things like this that are really visual, what I like to do, I mean, I like to do this with most patches I review, but what I like to do is actually test drive them, you know, apply them, take a look, pull out the measuring stick, you know, make sure that, you know, the spacing makes sense. And that's what we'll probably be doing today. So this, again, is called Improve Spacing in the Window Modal Clear Recent History Dialog. We're going to improve the spacing. And it actually has a dependency. Add title. So maybe we should actually review that one first, since that's a dependency. And thankfully, that was the that was the other one I was going to review. So this works out nicely. I'm just going to reorder. Oh man, what is wrong with Joplin? There we go. It doesn't know about this other bullet. This is like a ghost mystery bullet that is confusing it. More cleanup bugs. I think there's like some weird white space that's confusing it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to review this one first. So this one is add title to clear recent history dialog when opened as a sub-dialog in the browser window. Now, what's this bug about? So if you're not sure why I'm hopping around, just to sort of reiterate, I was going to review one thing and then realize that the patch for it is based on another patch for a different bug. And so if these two are dependent on one another, if there's a dependency from the first one on this one I'm looking at now, then I want to review this one now so I'm familiar with what it's doing, because that's what the other one's building on top of. So that's why I've sort of switched subjects here. But let's take a quick look at what this bug is trying to fix. The new redesigned clear recent history window modal lacks title. So the old one had a title. Yeah, that's an old native style window. And then the new one does not have a title. The new redesigned clear recent history window modal lacks title. This is in contradiction to all the other existing window modals. Also, someone accidentally opened this redesigned modal. They might have no idea what it is for. Unfortunately, since I don't have access to the proto mockups by the Firefox design team, unlike the Photon ones, which were publicly available, I'm not sure if the lack of title is an intentional change or simply an oversight. The new redesigned window modal should have a title just like the old one. And that's where Heiss's patch comes in. Add title. Okay. And it looks like there's already been some review activity. One of our contributors here, who I think is... ETL is one of the peers of the theme module, so the look and feel of Firefox Desktop, was reviewing some of this. There was some conversation here around some chaining operator, and then Heiss himself is commenting, this is kind of yucky, but I think because of this bug, whatever this bug is, a regression where clear recent history does not open when all windows are closed. But because of this, we'll need to support the dialog opening as an actual window, opening as a modal on top of the Firefox window, and opening as a modal in prefs. So although the non-pref... Oh, okay, so it sounds like clearing the recent history dialog. Whenever we did the original port, we forgot a case. And that's what this bug's about. There's a case where we want the window, the dialog, to open when all of the other browser windows are closed. And this is in particular on Mac OS, because you can actually get in that state where you like close all your windows, but the process is still running. That is not something that happens on Windows. Windows, I mean, for most applications anyways, and at least for Firefox, when you close all the browser windows, you've closed Firefox and the process stops running. But on Mac OS, there is this convention where the application will continue to run even if all of its windows are closed. And that's true for Firefox. So you'll still see it in the top menu, and you can still access menu items, including the clear recent history from the menu bar menu item. And what happens whenever someone chooses that, if the conversion that we've done assumes that there's a pre-existing browser window to attach to? And the answer is, well, we don't have a good place. And so I believe that's what we're going to have to hopefully support at some point. I wonder if this is something that Heiss is fixing in this bug, or if he's going to fix it in this separate regression bug. But let's take a look at what he did. Looks like they had this conversation about the chaining operator. And so we don't have to really worry about that. That chaining operator's conversation is closed. So the way that Heiss is doing this is he's adding a title text to the dialog, and then styling it. And then there's this like attribute where you're saying, hey, if I'm in the non-pref subdialog, don't show it. Don't show the dialog. Or sorry, don't show the title text. And it looks like check if we're nested in a window and not nested in the prefs, as the prefs provide their own title for us. So if we have an embedder element, yeah, a browser, that's what we would, or if the window, if what we're embedded in is itself hosted in a browser, which is true if you're loaded in like an iframe, check to see, oh man. Yeah, I can understand why Heiss is saying that this is kind of yucky. You have to, he's checking the ID of the iframes document element, seeing if it matches preferences root. And if so, then we will set this attribute to true and then update title for changes. Okay. And update title for changes, what it does is it says that, hey, a title changed. Also, let's add a mutation observer that makes it so that if the title ever changes, then we'll run title changed, which is to find the title text. I see. So if somehow, if the document that we're in, if the title changes on, if the attribute, is that how it works? There's a title on the document element? Okay. Okay. I'm just sort of refreshing my memory here on how all this works. Tentatively, this makes sense. I'm wondering if there's a better way of doing this. If there's a better way of knowing that we are in... if there's a way of knowing that we're embedded and not in prefs. In fact, I seem to recall that there was some code that I ended up removing in here that might do the job. Dialog has attribute subdialog. Okay. Could we do that instead? So we'd like check to see if we're a subdialog. What are the cases again? Opening it as an actual window. That's something that we don't do anymore. A modal on top of Firefox window. No problem. Got that. Opening as a modal in prefs. So that's the subdialog case. And what he's doing is he's checking to see if we're nested in a window and not nested in the prefs. Right. That's this case, actually. We're loaded in a subdialog when we use the new mechanism. Okay. Now, do we have this subdialog attribute whenever we... like, if this is stuff that was being used for preferences before, does the subdialog attribute actually signal that we're loaded inside of preferences? That's the one thing... That's something I want to check. So let's pull down this patch and apply it and find out. Because that thing that Heist sort of pointed out there is the first thing that I would, like, that's the first smell here. I'm also, oh, sorry, let me pump up the font so you can see what I'm doing. I'm also going to say, so I'm pulling down his patch. That's the ID of the patch. And this is the tool, MozFab. I'm going to tell it, okay, we're going to patch. This is the ID. I'm going to say apply to here rather than trying to replay the patch onto the revision that Heist originally wrote it on. I'm saying like, okay, apply it to here. And I'm also going to tell it to skip dependencies. I don't want to apply any of the parent or child. Whoops, I spelled that wrong. I don't want to apply any of the parent or child commits, just this one commit. Yeah, the clear recent history dialog is kind of special because it's loaded in all these different ways, I guess. But I seem to recall us never doing this whenever we were... oh, it failed to apply. So maybe I do need to... Oh, did I pulled the wrong one down. 984? No. 984 is right. 120984. Well, it's upset about it, so I'm gonna... I guess I'll trust him to rebase it. He knows what he's doing. So what I'll do is instead of saying apply to here, like I did, I'll actually apply it on top of the revision that he wrote it on, because that way I know I don't have to worry about rebasing. So I'll just get rid of apply to here, and what MozFab will do is it will check out the revision that he wrote the patch on. There's an unknown revision. There's an unknown dependency here. So he may have had something else on the stack. Okay, well, I guess the only thing we can do is try to just sort of hand apply this patch, which I think should be possible. So yeah, we hit some conflicts, but let's try and clean those up. So this is what didn't apply. And let's open up sanitize dialog.js. And let's see if we can find this line. Initted. Spelled it wrong, but that's okay. Check if we're... Oh, no, it's... Did this stuff already land? Preferences root? Because it's here. Had I... Okay, hold on a second. Is the reason that this isn't applying cleanly because I'd already applied the patch? Folks, I think that might be the situation here. I think before this episode started, I'd already applied the patch. And now I'm trying to apply it again. And that's what, yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. So I'm very embarrassed. I'm sorry for wasting your time. Let's build this thing. Let's take a look. Okay. Mock run. Okay. So the dialog is this one. And what I'm going to do before I open it is I'm going to open up the browser toolbox. There's actually a really great keyboard shortcut. I used to access it through the menu here, but there's a keyboard shortcut. On Mac OS, it's Command, I believe it's, yeah, Command Option Shift I will do it. That's presuming you have the toolbox enabled. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, you know what? I'm going to open it once because a lot of these scripts are lazy loaded. So, I mean, I saw the title there, which is nice. I saw the title here. Very good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell it to go to sanitizedialog.js. I think the debugger is currently confused. It doesn't know about any scripts. I'm going to reload the debugger. Sometimes that can happen where our debugger is confused. There we go. Okay, sanitize dialog. And what I want to do is, I think I'm going to break here. So let's open this dialog. We've hit our breakpoint. Let's go next. What I want to know is, does this dialog has attribute subdialog? It does. Okay. Let's take a look what this dialog is. Yeah, subdialog. So we can't use that old mechanism that we were using before. I guess I had removed it because its assumption that it was being opened in preferences is no longer true. So then the other thing I wanted to look at is whether or not there are other places where we have multiple, like we have a dialog that opens both here in the browser window as well as over in preferences, because I want to see if there's like prior art or prior best practices, I guess, you know, stuff that's already landed and we felt comfortable with, a pre-existing pattern that we could use. And if there isn't, well then we'll just give a quick think to see if we can think of anything that's a little less brittle than this. And if not, then I guess we'll go with this. But let's start by seeing if there is a pre-existing pattern. First of all, is anyone actually using this pattern? Maybe this is a pre-existing pattern. So let's see if anyone is... no, I don't see it being referenced in script. And if we take a look at preferences... there's going to be some dialogues in here. Add new container dialog. Some of these dialogues only open up in here, and that's not what I want. What I want is to see dialogues where we might open them both here and anchored to the main window. So I'm just kind of hunting around. No, that's not a dialogue anymore. I don't think we bring these up either. No. Certificates? Maybe certificate manager. I can see this one being opened up if you, for example, go to... if we go here and we say, hey, give me more information, tell me about the certificate. Do we have access to the dialog here? Certificate manager. Maybe not. No. No. So there might not be a whole lot of examples here. I want to just check a couple more things. So preferences, I think it's like G sub dialog is the, yeah, that's the main like API for opening stuff in a dialog in preferences. And so I'm going to check to see if there are any of these that are opened elsewhere. Well, obviously if they're opened under preferences, like if they're hosted under preferences, they're not going to be opened elsewhere. So we're going to look for something that's not hosted under preferences. That all looks like it is. This is all the same file. I can just see, I just do this. Subdialog dot open. Preferences, 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 preferences. Ah, here's one. The history of installed updates. Now, do we ever open this elsewhere? In about support, it looks like. So here, let me do this over here. Show update history. Opens this dialog. Okay, now my question now is, does history.xhtml, this dialog, does it know how to behave differently based on what context it's in? Let's find that file. There's a script, history.js. Okay, does it know? Does it care? It doesn't look like it. All right, let's move on to another one. App Picker. Aha. App Picker. That one, okay, this is a great example of one. App Picker. So whenever you have a, whenever you are, what's it, where is apps? Apps, I think it's under general. You know, you're choosing what application to open for a particular like file type. Use other. Maybe that's not the right one. What was it? Application details? Yeah, this thing. This App Picker. I believe this is what it's called. App Picker. Whoops. How does this one work? First of all, is this App Picker? Dialog box. Browser. Okay, where are you hosted at? What's your address? Whoops, I lost it. I lost it. Let's try that again. Okay, let's get at the browser. And then let's see what its current URI is. Okay, application manager, and that is under preferences. So that's not what I want. What is App Picker? Maybe I should just open it manually. Can I just do that here? G subdialog, do I have that? I do. Then close and callback and params. Oh, this is only if you are on Windows. That might explain it. Well, at any rate, let's see if this thing behaves differently depending on what context it's in. It doesn't look like it. What triggers this? App Picker. App Picker is whenever you do choose app on Windows. Okay, let's try it. Here, I might have to shut this one down. I may have confused it by shutting that one down. Yeah, hold up. Or we're we're just super crashy right now. There, mock clobber. Oh, yeah, mock clobber, mock build, mock run. Let's try destroying that that profile, building a new one, and running again. Huh. Okay, well, I don't think apppicker.xhtml behaves differently either, but I'm curious to know what it does about its title. Let's keep looking. No, no. Have I worked my way back to the beginning again? I think I have. Yeah, I have. So if apppicker doesn't have a title, then we are doing something new. I think we've got ourselves a well, that was just under main. Maybe privacy. Let's check a couple other areas. Sanitize. That's the one we were just this is the one we care about. So can't look at that one. Preferences. Remove master password. Does this one ever get called by anything else? No, it does not. Okay. And I think that was the last one here, right? Oh, no. certmanager.xhtml. Is that one open by anyone else? Nope. What about device manager? Is that one open by anyone else? Nope. What about Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to have any luck here. So let's get out of privacy and we'll go to the next one. Search. Also preferences. No good. Sync. Preferences. Preferences. No good. And I think that's all she wrote. So now I'm starting to get more and more convinced that that what we're doing here is kind of like cutting edge, state of the art. That's why we don't have any pre-existing patterns. So we're actually going to be establishing a pattern that this, excuse me, ends up being more of a thing. So let's say I choose an application picker. Is this the dialog? Is this the app picker dialog? Let's actually open up the inspector. How do I do that on Windows? Control I? Nope. Control Shift I? Yeah. And use other. This thing, what are you? You are a browser. And you are in App Picker. Okay, so this one has a title. This one has a title. And is it used elsewhere? apppicker.xhtml. Yes, and the helper dialog. So like if I try and choose an app on Windows, this will come up. This can come up if I choose I have the app chooser. So let's see here. Let's what's like Zoom links. Let me find a good Zoom link, room link. Is there any public ones? Or even better, let's go to I'll make it so that mail to will always ask, and I'm just going to go to a mail to link. And I think that should bring it up. So, okay. So now if I say choose, no, that's not what I wanted. Choose other application. What causes this thing to open? If There's a bunch of like, okay, if we're on Windows, protect against the lack of an extension. There's no extension we're trying to open. There's no type string, then do all this stuff. We're starting to assemble this params object. Then we're going to open up this dialog at picker.xhtml. That's only if we're on Windows. Is that what we're doing here in helper app dialog? Let's find out. Let's find out. Let's open up the browser toolbox. Helper app. No, I don't think so, because it would be in memory, so we didn't open this. Helper app dialog.jsm. Who opens this? Oh, it's when we're downloading a file. When we're downloading a file that we don't know what to do with. Yes. Okay. So we need to find a download. So test download files. I believe we just want something small. Oh, here's an ad. Okay. Open with other. Okay, so this is a native. Interesting. This is a native window, not a Proton style window. And I guess that's the difference is like the reason we're doing it this way is because like the rest of the dialog window, like the download window, is also still native, and we haven't converted it yet. So why would you have converted this one? Especially since this would be rendering over top of if we had made this Proton themed window modal, this would be rendering over like underneath this one, which is weird because this is the one that's most recently asking you a question. Okay, I think I'm gonna give up on trying to find pre-existing art. I think we've done a good search. Now what's he doing? So we're cutting new ground here. What he's doing is he's checking to see if we're embedding. I'll ask here, is it sufficient to check this dialog.has attribute subdialog? Rather than seeing if we have an embedder element. There was prior art doing that in here. So we check to see if we're a subdialog, and then we want to make sure that we're not the preferences window. So how is this one opened? How is sanitize? Was it sanitize dialog.js, which is open via sanitize.xhtml, I believe. Oh. Yeah. How is this loaded? We say it's not resizable in its features. Is the new one resizable? No. And I wonder if we can do something here. We're able to pass some arguments, for example. And that all ends up being like plumbed through the subdialog stuff. Features. What happens to these features? Preload dialog open. Features. If features, then the dialog features include those things. And then we say open dialog, and we add features. And then there are also these additional params. Params. Params is coming at us from anything else that we pass to open as additional params. And where does that get plumbed to? Say open, and what do we do with them? We just pass them along, I think. We just like, we say open dialog, and we pass those params along. Open dialog. And where are the arguments to open dialog? Is that window.openDialog? Where do we define that? Is that something that's defined in WebIDL? Yeah, I think it is. Extra arguments. And who handles that? Open dialog. Global window inner forwards probably to global window outer. Extra arguments opens. Oh, sorry, rather it goes to open internal. Extra arguments is an NSI. It's expecting something in NSI supports. And what's it doing with them? It passes them to open window 2. Oh boy, we're going deep. Strap in, we're going deep. Into arguments. Converts args into an array. And argv is being passed to open window internal. Argv. We say set. Oh, I see. So what's happening is there's a global object. I'm not sure if this is something that, yeah, I don't think websites get it. But whenever you open up dialogues or windows, you can pass stuff to them and then access them in the open window using window.arguments. And I wonder if we have any of our dialogues using them. Dialog arguments. Yeah, handler info, browser params. So we've got like pre-existing art here of passing stuff through params, like site data remove. This is also a way of getting stuff out. Is you can like send out params through these arguments, I think. Let hosts. So let's see if we can use this as an example, and then we can maybe put together a plan for an alternative way of doing what Heis is doing that's maybe a little more opt-in. Args. So you can just pass a structure. Okay. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm worried that this might be a bit brittle, having the dialogue know about preferences like this. Because yeah, what we're doing is we're kind of tightly coupling these concepts together. You know, this dialogue suddenly knows very concretely that it might be within the preferences document. And the less you can sort of have these concrete notions, usually the better. That's from my experience anyways. Like this sort of tight coupling of concepts can burn you down the line, especially when you have a thing that can exist in multiple contexts. So in general, it's sometimes better, and you know, use your best judgment, obviously. Like don't go crazy with abstraction, but usually it's best if you can be a little more general, so that something like this, which is designed to be reusable, is less, it needs to know less about the ways it's being used, if that makes sense. Maybe it takes instructions rather than it like sort of inspecting or introspecting to see how it's being used. Have it be told how it should be used, if that makes sense. So the logic, the choice of how to use it is made from the person who's using it. So how about instead of checking what we're embedded in, we have preferences pass in some arguments here. So sanitize. So what I like to do whenever I'm reviewing is I like to link to code to see what it's, describe what I'm talking about. Kind of how we pass args here. I had an example, right? Yeah, args. I believe G sub dialog open. Like, do we have an example of G sub dialog open and someone passing arguments? Let's see. Because like the one we were just looking at actually is not G sub dialog open. It's using open dialog. I want to see an example of someone using G sub dialog open and passing arguments. So we're gonna just quickly go through these again. G sub dialog open. Aha! This thing. This is a better example. Kind of how we pass opts here. I believe if I'm understanding correctly, these opts will then be available as window.arguments in sanitized dialog.js. Now, at this point, I think Heist will get where I'm going with this. But just for posterity, I think I'm going to keep explaining. Like, let's see if we can find how Browser Languages uses it. So who uses this? Who loads this script? Or what script does this load, rather? Browser languages.js. So let's look at this file. And I believe, yeah, here. And retrieves them here. Will then be available as window arguments. That way, maybe we can pass in something like no title, or no title is true. To tell the dialog to suppress its built-in title. Okay, so I actually think we'll see. We'll see what Heist thinks about that. But we've got, I think, a suggestion here that takes us to a better place. Okay, what else did I want to look at here? This title change thing. So I guess the title can change. I guess that's not super surprising, but I'm actually a little surprised by that. So what changes the title? If I go to like history, clear recent history, oh yeah, I want to stay in this space. Do I have a title? Document.title, clear recent history. I want to set a breakpoint for whenever, say, the selection in the dropdown changes. Select by time span. Is that what it is? Init selected time span. Yeah. On the select handler. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna open this thing up. First of all, I'm gonna go like I'm gonna change scope so that the debugger is running, or the console is running inside this dialog. So document.title should be clear recent history. So if I say document.title equals M. Conley was here, boom, that works. Now what what is the situation where that would occur? Like, obviously that works now and that's great, but like, is anything updating the title in here? Oh, dialogue, title, everything. What is going on here? So if I like change this, clear all history, it updates it again. Clear recent history. Oh, I see what it does. So whenever you choose everything, then it goes like, okay, we're clearing all history. And that, okay, that is what we need to support. I understand, Heist. I understand. I'm with you. I'm with you, sir. Okay. I'm going to suggest that I'm going to suggest a title, a different method name here, since this isn't, since updating the title is via title changed, is more of a, is, I guess, more of a byproduct of what this method is really responsible for. Maybe this should be titled update. No. Observe title for changes. And then we say observe title for changes here. And do we call title changed anywhere else? Title changed. One place. Here and here. I see. Okay. The title, say a title text. Makes sense. Okay, so in terms of the actual appearance, because I haven't even paid any attention to that yet. Whoops. I'm going to just get rid of all these breakpoints I have in here. In terms of the actual appearance, I think this looks great. And let's make sure that the when we open it inside of the, when we open it inside here, yeah, we get our own, it's got its own like built-in title, so we don't have to show it. Yeah. Looks good. Looks good. So I'm going to request changes on this. Thanks, Heist. Just a few small suggestions below. Let me know what you think. Always thank your contributor. Always say thank you. They worked hard on the patch. Okay. Let's look at the next one. So this is based on top of what we just did. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it was sort of reliant on it. It probably wouldn't have applied cleanly. Let's apply this patch, and then we'll take a look and see what it does. So let's shut down. Mozfab patch, apply to here, skip dependencies because we've already got the dependency applied. I also don't want to forget, like I said at the beginning, I think there are some questions that were submitted. So maybe we can answer some questions after we do this review. Let me just pull those up. Joy of coding. Joy of coding. Hold up. Gotta open up The joy of coding. I should have had these prepared, but it was only at the last minute that I remembered that there were questions that had been asked. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, got me some questions. Let me just put them up here. Maybe I can even paste them in. Okay. So we're improving the spacing in the window modal clear recent history dialog. And so what Heist is doing, it looks like he's adding a class called warning box separator. And, he's adding a bunch of rules that only apply if we're not running it inside the preferences subdialog. Okay. And I don't know whether or not that's going to... Yeah, I wonder how that's going to affect things with my original suggestion in the other patch, which was about the not caring or knowing or caring whether or not we're in preferences. It's knowing whether or not we're embedded in another page's subdialog. All this to make the two thin separators not take up space when the warning box is hidden. Otherwise, the gap with the content below looks unnaturally large. Toggle attribute, warning dialog displayed. I see. This hides a bunch of stuff. Okay. Oh, wow. Hold up. What are we doing here? Then we resize the window. Oh, this is very interesting. If we change the size of the dialogue. Oh, really? Huh. All right. Well, we were already doing this kind of like funky mathematics. I guess this isn't too surprising. And then we say that the warning box is not displayed. That makes sense. The warning box... Well, hold on a second. If the warning box is not hidden, then say warning box displayed as false. What is... Oh, I see. If the warning box isn't hidden, but we want to hide it, then do all these calculations, set warning box display to false, and set warning box hidden to true. Okay. I think I get it. Okay, let's take a look at what it looks like. He's got... Oh, come on. What happened here? Why didn't that apply? Subdialog.js reg versus subdialog. Do we happen to have this one also applied magically? Wild. We do. How did that happen? Did I pull it down twice? Did I try and apply it twice, people? Is that what happened? I'm going to watch this back, and if I did MozFab patch twice, that will have explained this. But I don't actually remember doing it the first time. I only remember doing the most recent time. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Wow, today, what a day. So yeah, do I still have... Yeah, improved spacing. I still have it here, so I must have done it twice. Brilliant. Good job, Mike. It's twice in one day I made that mistake. Waka waka. How's it going in the chat? Oh, you know what? I don't think my Twitch chat bot is working. You know what? I think my Twitch mirror... If there's Twitch chat, I might not be seeing it. What happened to my Twitch bot? I had tested it earlier. Sorry, folks. If there's been some dialogue inside of the Twitch chat, I haven't been seeing it. Let me quickly open up the Twitch chat. Chat settings, switch to non-mod, pop it out. Here it is. Here's the Twitch chat. Oh, there's all this dialogue. I'm sorry, folks. I haven't been paying any attention to you. Let's see here. Hi, can I ask a question about CS careers? Of course you can. Amphetamina, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was not intentionally ignoring you, Amphetamina. I apologize. You happened to chat on the day that my chat mirror bot wasn't working properly, so I apologize. Go ahead, ask your question about CS careers. I hope you're still in the room. I'll happily try and answer it. Again, apologies. And if you've already left and maybe you're watching this recording after the fact, there's a link in the agenda. You can always ask me questions in this rate this episode form. You can fill it out, and at the end there's like a questions thing. Think of it as like mailbox where you can submit questions and I can try and answer them. All right. I just got distracted. What am I doing? Oh yeah. Let's open up this thing. Okay. Now what did it look like before? If I open it up, now I've got dark theme enabled, but it definitely looks a little, a lot more, I don't know. The spacing is definitely different, and I think it's improved. What happens if I say like everything? That grows. What happens if I say everything here? This grows. Today, this shrinks. Interesting. There's a lot of weird mathematics going on in that patch, and I wonder what it's for. And what about over here whenever I say clear recent history in here? Grows. Shrinks. Now, is this tightness okay? Let's take a look at this inside about preferences in here. Yeah, it's what we've currently got. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can figure out how it works. And also, we want to run it on this Windows machine. So let's open up that clear history dialog and take a look. Oh yeah, this looks awful. This looks like garbage. This looks like garbage, people. I must not have been testing properly on Windows. We need to fix this. Thank you, Heist, for taking this on. That is garbage. Garbage. Let's apply this patch and see how it fixes it. Well, it's fab. Patch. Doobly-doo. Apply to here. Skip dependencies. I'm really bummed. I think Amphetamina left. Oh, Heis is here. Heis, so good to see you. I reviewed your first patch, and if you're curious about what I went through to do that, you can watch the episode. I mean, so he's saying, I don't know if you can see here, I'll bring the chat up so you can see what Heis is saying. He's saying that the old dialogue, the one that I had done on Windows 7, is not that garbage. I'm like, well, it's pretty bad. Like, let's see what, I'm sure what you've done is an improvement. Let's see. Hang on a second. That looks about the same. I don't think I update. I did. I thought there'd be more space on the left. History. Okay. Now, do we have any pre-existing art? We've got like this edge that's going along the sides. And I figure if that's relatively even, then we're in good shape. So let's pull out Xscope and we'll take a close peek. Xscope. One of the tools I like to use with Xscope is this dimensions tool, and I will not be updating for now. So we've got 8 pixels on the left, 9 pixels on the bottom, but that's probably due to a rounding error, so I'm okay with that. Now this gap is 14, and this gap is 10, probably a rounding error again. 11, is it a rounding error? Okay. Let's pull out the inspector and see if we can get a sense of where this stuff's coming from. Whoops. There it is. The edge should be 16 pixels, says Heiss. All right. The edge should be 16 pixels. That is not what I'm seeing. Is that what we have on Mac OS? What do we do over here? 14, 18 on top. 18. We're pretty inconsistent. We've got 14 along the top, 18 along the right. And this isn't a criticism. I just want to make it clear. This is not a criticism of Heiss's work. I have a feeling that this dialogue was always a little bit, uneven. And I was the one who ported it. So, I'm in many ways, I'm responsible for having landed a patch where we have like a bunch of stuff that doesn't look that great. So 14, and then over here it's 8. What is the deal? Where is that? Right here. So if we look at the rules, on the left side, we've got no padding or margin. We've got this V box in an H box in a group box inside a dialogue. And the dialogue has, interestingly, uneven padding all the way around. We've got 8 on the left, 8 on the top, 10 on the right, 10 on the bottom. That's interesting. And where are these coming from? Where are these rules coming from? Where is this padding coming from? Padding, 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 padding. I guess we're just kind of like inheriting them somehow from, oh wait, show browser styles. Padding. Is that gonna tell me? Yeah. No, I thought it would. I thought it would. Is it because of something this is something I said? Where is this padding coming from? Oh, here we go. Here we go. The host. The host. So in dialog.css, we've got this rule where we want to do this. And this is this true on just Windows? Dialog.css. So we've got some Mac OS specific things, and we've got some Windows specific things, and then we've got, yeah, this is a Windows specific rule. So this is from back in the day. Yeah, the edge should be 16 pixels, but somehow you don't have my parent patch. Not sure why Fab hasn't applied that. The parent patch, sorry, Heiss, maybe I've applied all this wrong. Let me shut down. Am I doing this all wrong? I've got these two, 466 and 262. Is that what we're supposed to have here? 466 and 262. Which one am I missing? Like the one that adds the title, we definitely have that applied. Is there another patch in the series that's missing? My styles don't seem to be applying. Well, let's take a look at these styles and find out why they're not applying. So the things that Heiss did was he said, hey, Grid padding, 16 pixels. Use that. And grid padding is, yeah, he's applying this padding of 16 pixels all the way around. That makes sense to me. Why doesn't he have that? Let's take a look. Let's take a look in here. Do we have non-pref subdialog? We're missing that. We're missing that attribute. So like if I were to apply that attribute, non-pref subdialog. Okay, then that looks a lot better. Well, it's okay. The buttons got pushed, but that's something that it would take care of if the attribute had been there in the first place. So why isn't the non-pref subdialog applying? Like, why aren't we getting that attribute? So let's take a look at that stuff. So under, what was it? Sanitize dialog.js, non-pref subdialog. What? Do I not? Where? What? Did I not? You know what it is, Heis? I think I know what it is. I think I know what it is. On my Windows box here, I've only applied your one patch. Too many machines. That's the problem. Too many machines. Too many files open, too many machines. Let's just simplify everything here. I'm starting to, I think I'm over caffeinated is my problem. So let's not skip dependencies. I make too much a habit to do that, of doing that. Let's apply both patches. Let's rebuild. And let's take another look. Sorry for wasting everyone's time. Oh, I apologize, Heist. How embarrassing for me. I now that you're seeing how I review, it's a whirlwind. You're taking a peek behind the curtain. I'm a real mess over here. Okay, so let's boot this up again and take another look. All right, so that looks a lot better, obviously. This is what I was looking for. This looks great. And if we change the size of the dialogue, that works correctly. The other condition I think that was being fiddled with is, you know, what happens when it's opened up in here. And that looks right. I think that looks right. I mean, is that gap supposed to be like that? Let's see here. Let's open up another instance. Yeah, so that, we should really set up voice chat for this. You know what would be interesting is if, if when I'm reviewing your patch next, I have you as like a guest, and you can be on like a call with me, and you can like talk me through it. That might be really interesting. You know what? We should pursue that. We should pursue that. So this is the before shot. Such garbage. This is the after shot. Hang on, I'll do it this way. This is the after shot. So much better. Amazing. I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased. Now, the thing I was just looking at, I just wanted to double check, is what happens whenever you have the this dialogue and we say everything. Is that gap right? It's about the same. It's about the same. I don't mind keeping it the same. You know, this is fine the way it was, and you know, maybe it could be tightened up, but that's not the goal. The goal is to fix the standalone dialogue or the window modal dialogue. So I think we're in great shape here. Let's take a look at the patch again and see how he's doing it. So like we said, he's added this class, and I guess it's because we have other separators in here. Do we have other separators? Just separator. We've got a menu separator. These separators. Okay. So what he's doing is he's saying, okay, if I am not being open in preferences, make my padding 16 pixels, but also compute my padding such that it's like my top, I think this is like, how does this work? Whenever you do two terms, I think it's like top, bottom. I always have to look it up. The short form for padding and margin. Whenever you do two terms, vertical then horizontal. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So this is like the block padding, and then this is the inline padding. So we're evening it out. We're removing 4 pixels on the sides, I guess, because we've got some extra padding. Yeah, it's because of this padding. Or rather, we put some margin on the inside. Is that necessary? If we like get rid of this calculation, part of me wonders if we can remove this. Do we get to remove this as well? Like, do those cancel? So let's find out. That's just speculation, but I want to find out. So let's go back to, you know what? I think I may have just closed the wrong build. Let's go back to Heiss's build. I'm going to make sure I've got Heiss's chat open, but I'm going to put it over here so I can keep an eye on it. And I'm going to open up the toolbox. And we're going to take a look to see what happens if I... what was the rule again? Sanitize dialog, CSS. We're going to go over here. So my question was, like, can I get rid of this 4 pixel subtraction here by getting rid of this 4 pixel addition over here? And the answer is maybe. I guess the problem is that look at the title. The title isn't moving. So if we want everything to line up with the title, which I think we do, but it's also got a 4 pixel margin. So what if I get rid of that? Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Does that get us? It gets us the equivalent. But Heiss is saying it's annoying to try to get rid of the 4 pixels in the anonymous content of the button box. The multiple tabs warning and other dialogues do the same kind of thing. Okay, so there's a good reason for this. This isn't just like, you know, we accidentally added some 4 pixels somewhere and like we're, you know, and then we're working around ourselves. This is a legitimate workaround because of how our button boxes have 4 pixels of padding in here, I think. So these things. So that's the problem. It's these darn buttons. Okay. Arguably, perhaps you should fix the button box. True, but out of scope. Let's say out of scope for now. Okay, so this passes muster. And then the label, we're going to say, okay, no margin inline on the duration label. What's that one? This one? Yeah, no margin inline here. Because labels, I believe, by default have some kind of... Oh. Because the label by default has an inline margin, but we don't want to have it. I think maybe what we could do is we could adjust... Instead of undoing it, we could have this be like... because where is this defined? In line 10. Wait, really? Hold up, I'm confused. Where is this coming from? Sanitize dialog, CSS line. Oh, I see. This is another instance of Windows specific stuff happening, I believe. So I believe we have like a separate style sheet For Windows, that's... I see, okay. And so we're getting rid of that in the non-pref subdialog case. Same thing here. And then if we're the last item, we're going to give ourselves a 16 pixel margin at the end. Makes sense. So that means that there's that's this gap right here. And then if we're saying that, hey, we're not showing the warning box, then we're going to collapse the warning box separators. Now, what's the deal with these separators? Where are these separators? Because I actually didn't realize that there were separators in here. There's separators around, above and below the warning box. And I guess they're like invisible because I don't actually see any. Separator. Yeah, it actually, it has height of 6 pixels. It just doesn't have any like visual representation. It's almost like an additional margin. It's kind of wild. Part of me, okay, so part of me wonders if these separators should really just be margins on the sanitize. I can spell sanitize everything warning box. Not something for here, but maybe as a follow-up. Unless you want to do it. Yeah, because I don't think those separators, like even whenever we have this thing embedded inside of settings, the preferences dialog. Oh, where are we? I don't think these separators actually like show up. I think they really just act as spacers. And like maybe there was a time when these things had some appearance to them. But right now they're really just acting as spacers. And we can get rid of a bunch of, I think, logic here. Or we can sort of simplify some logic by just having them be margins that exist around this VBox. Because when the VBox goes away, then the margins go away. And then things collapse on themselves. And then we don't have to worry about like this stuff down here. And there might actually be... that means I think we can also get rid of this. I believe we don't need that attribute anymore. That means we also get rid of this. And then I also think that we get to not change these. I think a lot of this stays the same. I'm not entirely certain. Heist says he's not sure if they have visual lines when used as a native dialogue. Good question. We can actually find that out by looking at the old version. So if we download, say, mock Moz regression launch. So this is a trick. If you've never used mock Moz regression, you can use it to run like a particular build of Firefox. I'm pretty sure July 1st we hadn't. Well, actually, hold on. Before I do that, I have to find when the patch got backed out, because like we had that patch in Nightly for a while, and then we backed it out just before the uplift. So what might actually be better is to run beta. Do I have regression launch? Let's run today's beta. 2021 0. I don't know if I've ever done this before. I'm going to say channel. Can I say beta? Does that work? Can I do that? Okay, well, Moz regression just updated itself. Heist mentions that the diff thing would still need to change because the height of the warning box doesn't include margins. Oh, annoying. Right. Right. But I guess we can, like... We just have to add them. Nothing's easy. Okay, does this thing allow me to choose beta? Build type. Build. Release. Change set. Build ID. Yeah. Classic. Launch. Repo equals Mozilla dash. Oh, thank you, Heis. Repo equals Mozilla dash beta. Good man. See, you should always be watching me stream. I think we should always be sitting next to each other, Heis. You could save me so much time, and then I could go fetch you drinks. I could go fetch you, like, candy whenever you help me. All right, so what we're doing here is, this is the dialogue. Now, I don't see any separators being rendered here. And I also have beta, I think, for Mac OS. So I think one of these is beta. I think it's Firefox 2 is beta. This is beta, right? 89 beta. Well, that should be good enough, actually. Yeah, I don't see any rendered separators here. So my guess is that separators never really, or at least they've never really needed to appear. Heis is going to burn them with fire. Amazing. I think I'm pretty happy with everything else, though. Like, this, I think, makes a lot of sense. I really like how it cleans things up. At some point, I guess, at some point, we should probably fix the padding on button box so that we didn't have to keep doing this, but a challenge for another time. So I'm going to mark that as done. I always like, whenever I do these sort of commentaries, I don't want to make Heis have to click done because there's nothing to do here. It's just me being like, hey, I noticed this thing. So I'm going to click done for him. Excuse me. And this one, not because he's expressed an interest in actually doing this, so I'm not going to click done there. But I'm actually pretty happy with this. So I'm going to say accept. So thank you, Heis. Yeah. Thank you, Heis. Always thank your contributor. This really tightens things up on Windows. Submit. A booyah. All right, so that's our reviews for the day. Before we go, I wanted to answer a quick couple of questions that had shown up in the on the internet via the rate this episode form. So just a reminder, in the agenda, which I linked to, there's this rate this episode link. You can let me know what you thought of the episode, but also you can leave me a question and I will try and answer it during the next stream. So here are some of the questions I got. First person has a couple of questions. They ask, can you describe your team? Like, how many people are there? And how long have you known some of the members? And how do you communicate with them? Okay, so that's the first question. So my team. So currently I work on the Firefox desktop front-end engineering team. And I think there's something like 10 of us? I could be wrong. I haven't done a count. 10 or 11, I'd say. And there are people who like work on the front end of the browser. Like there are people, for example, who work on this stuff, which is arguably the front end of the browser, but they're on a separate team. Like there are sort of specialized teams that will like specialize on a particular part of the browser. And my team is sort of a general set of people who are pretty good at most of the front end of the browser. You know, that's what we do. So the recent retheme effort that happened in 89, that was like I'd say mostly our team. We're the kind of the front end generalists. And I think there's about 11 of us in total. How long have I known some of the members? Well, I mean, probably it spans from Some people I've only gotten to know within this past year, I'd say. Really gotten to know, rather. Maybe I was familiar with them when they were on other teams, but I got to know them this year. Spanning to like people I've known since I pretty much started working on Firefox Desktop, which was like 8 years ago. I think 8 years ago. So it really spans the gamut. So yeah, some people have been around for a long time, just like me. I've been around for a long time, and I've known some of them that entire time. And let's see. How do you communicate with them? So primarily, I'd say we communicate using what's called Matrix. So Matrix, there's some instructions on how to use Matrix somewhere in the agenda for chat here, where the live hacking channel is. But that we switched away from what used to be our primary like chat system, which was called IRC, to Matrix. And that is, I'd say, where most of engineering is communicating. Now, we also have some teams that use Slack, and so some of us end up living in two worlds. We have like Matrix world, and then we have some teams that really like to use Slack, and we're in Slack world. But I'd say the majority of engineering likes to hang around in Matrix. That's my impression anyways. So we also communicate, I mean, when we're sitting in offices, when it's been a while since I've been in an office, I'll communicate by going up to someone's desk or speaking with them over lunch at a lunch table. Now, I have plenty of colleagues who are remote. Heist, for example, who is watching, might still be watching, I don't know if he's still watching, is a remote employee. And so the way I generally communicate with Heist, and the way I've always communicated with Heist whenever I'm not with him in person, is over Zoom or like video conferencing. Right now we use Zoom, I think, for the majority of our video conferencing. And I think besides that, Fabricator, Bugzilla, and email, I think that accounts for the vast majority of the way we communicate. So let me review. Matrix, Slack, Fabricator, Bugzilla, email, Zoom. That's how we communicate. And theoretically, can you change your team? Yes. Yes, you can. I've known people to do it. How often does the lineup change? We've gotten people transferred to my team within the year. We've had, I think, 2 people transfer onto the team. There are always, so the structure of the team is designed to fit the problem that the team is trying to solve. So the structure of the team is never like done. So the team, like sub teams, will form based on what problems we're trying to solve. And that might include engineers from other teams as well, because we like to work together, and we sometimes need people who have like different specialties from different teams. And so we'll like form and combine and collapse, but we all kind of have this umbrella team where we're like the front end engineers. And so you do change your lineup usually based on what problem you're solving. So like during the retheme effort that we did for Firefox 89, it was like the whole bunch of us working together, but like these little sub teams formed based on what parts we were working on. And then as those parts finished up, people would contribute to various parts of other teams' work. And so the lineup changes often. Like I'm not always working with the same people. Sometimes I'm working on the same stuff as Heist, and then sometimes I'm working on not the same stuff as Heist, and we don't work on the same stuff for months. Who knows? So it changes often. What is my team responsible for? I think I've answered that. The front end of Firefox Desktop. Can you say something about other teams that you know? Do you collaborate with other teams? So yes, I think I mentioned this. We definitely collaborate with other teams. We have to, and if we're going to get anything done, we have to work together. So, I mean, it's not just other engineering teams, 'cause like we're always working with other engineering teams. There aren't really hard borders. We don't you can't touch my code, you can't change my code, that sort of thing. We will cross borders all the time. We have to make sure that people who know the code are who is reviewing the code, and they accept the patches, and then we're communicating the sorts of stuff that we're trying to do and what plans that we have and what our priorities are. So engineering is constantly talking, but also we have different teams like the UX team. So they're the ones who are designing the experience and the flow and the visual appearance of the product. And then you have the product management team who's like figuring out what people want and like what's important to do and what has priority and what doesn't, what's the vision. And then you have like the privacy and security team they're like the specialists at making sure that we don't accidentally make really dangerous software for people that will cause people to have their privacy compromised or their security threatened. People who are really good at security audits and privacy audits and data collection audits to make sure that we're not accidentally collecting way too much data than we need, which is something we don't want to do. So yeah, we collaborate with other teams all of the time. And I haven't even, there are other, like the user research team, there's QA team, there's localization team, leadership teams, like there too many to count. Like I'm definitely missing some, but we definitely collaborate. We have to if we're going to get anything done. So that was the first set of questions. I'm going to answer two more. They ask, I'd love to learn how your team, I love to learn how your team does communication. Okay, I already answered that. I think I answered that question, so we can move on. But they also mentioned that they prefer the new mic setup, that it sounds better. I agree. The last question is, how has working remotely for the past year affected you and your team? So for me, I generally used, like, for the vast majority of my work, whenever I was working for Mozilla, I would work in an office. I worked in an office in Toronto, where I live. And that I've not been able to do during the pandemic. And so, I've been working here in this basement, and I've gotten used to it. But the good news is that I think the majority, it's the majority of our employees are remote. So we already had like a huge infrastructure set up. Like all of our tooling is designed to support remote employees. So whenever the pandemic hit and they were like, we're closing offices, everyone work from home, it wasn't a huge leap. Like I did have to do a couple of things. Like I had to bring some hardware home that I generally work with in the office. Like I brought my big Windows tower home and plugged it into my home network. And what else did I bring home? I brought all the streaming stuff, like my green screen that I generally had in the office. I brought all that home, and some testing hardware that I use. I brought all that home, and then it's been fine. We've adapted, and we were actually well suited. Like we didn't skip a beat. Like I'm pretty sure when the office is closed, the next Monday I was working and it was fine. Like just using the same tools I always use. It's a lot lonelier, and for lunch I eat leftovers that are in the fridge upstairs in our kitchen, rather than going going to the office cafeteria. I go into the kitchen, my kitchen, more, and I'm surrounded by my basement clutter as opposed to being in an office with my colleagues who I love hearing the chatter of. That's the thing that I miss. I miss the chatter. I miss the not even the food. I mean, the food's fine. We would periodically get food brought in, which is great. But I miss the chatter around the lunch table and talking to my peers and hearing what they're up to, which, that's a thing that I think we've struggled in the past to foster with our remote contributors, our remote employees, is like, how do you get that sort of lunchtime feel? And now we're all kind of feeling it. Like we're all remote now. Everyone's working from home pretty much. And so I think this is going to do a lot to hopefully we keep this memory. Like eventually the offices will open, but hopefully we all are able to empathize of like, okay, this is what it's like to work from home, and this is what remoties have to go through, and this is what it's like, and to like make sure that we don't forget and make sure that we value the skill. Like this posturing of being able to work remotely is really powerful, and like let's not forget how powerful it is. It allowed us to adapt really quickly. And like, let's not forget that. Okay, so that was the last question in the that was submitted via the forms, and it's tough being remoties sometimes, says Fare, but it's usually very nice. Fare is on the Dom team. Hey, Fare, good to see you. Yeah, the fika or lunch breaks is the hardest to adapt for remote work. I'm not sure what fika is. I'm guessing that is some kind of as a word in a language I'm not familiar with. But yeah, that is a really hard thing. I think we tried a couple of times to like have a tablet with a camera set up to try and create that shared space. It's really hard. It's like trying to have lunch with people through this little window, and they can all hear each other a lot better. and you're like, hey, can anyone hear me? I've got a question. And you're like waving your arms. It's difficult. It's difficult, I think. And I hope we're able to sort of take this experience when people move back into the offices, and I'm going to be one of them because I miss my office peeps. But when we move back in, then we remember what this was like, and we do a better job of trying to find ways of taking what we value from the office and making it more available for people. And I don't know how you do that. Do you do that via technology? Do you do that via, I don't know. But it's important. It's important. I miss that stuff. It's not like it's really critical to my, like, obviously I've been able to work for a year without going into an office, but I really miss it. I miss the people. All right, I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for watching episode 256 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you thought. Send in your questions. There's this link in the agenda to rate this episode. Even if you're one of my colleagues who's known me for a number of years, you can ask me a question and I'll answer it on air. So just send something in that forum. Even if that question is, why haven't you reviewed my patch yet? Go ahead and send that question in. And I will see you all next week. So that's it. Have yourselves a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.